My name is Paul Beal. Welcome everybody to Elephant in the Studio. The elephant in the studio today, of course, is problems with internet. And I am here with my former professor, Dennis Wojtkiewicz. He is a professor of painting at Bowling Green State University. Great guy, really great teacher. I learned a hell of a lot from him, and I was a painting apprentice for him for a year as well, which was a really great experience. All right, so
You're my only painting apprentice. You know that, right? Like somebody that was actually allowed to be in my studio painting on my canvas.
I was the only one. Ooh, I'm honored. Honored. All right, so I'm getting started, and what I usually do with these Skypes is I start by painting the background area. So I'm not painting an outline of his head right now. I'm painting a tone behind his head. And that's a big distinction to make because there are no lines, really. They don't really exist. They're a construction of ours, and those of us who tend to have a somewhat realist bent have to consider the fact that those things that we call lines aren't really there. They're just things that are useful for us to put information to use for us. But if we're making a picture that we don't want to look flat or somewhat graphic, then we want to try to forget about this idea that we have about the existence of lines. So I'm sort of knocking out large areas of the composition, then I'm going to get down to, ooh, there's that painting on the wall. I'm going to have to get that in. Love that.
It's pastel.
It's pastel?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you explain what the difference, what pastel is, if there's anybody out there that doesn't know what pastel is. Give you a job.
Pastel is pigment with a glue binder. It's like pure pigment, powdered pigment.
Powdered pigment, okay.
Well, all paint, all anything having to do with paint or color starts with the powdered pigment, right? The color. Powdered
Sure.
pigment, and then it's the binder. It's oil and acrylic. Oil pastels. My students we're using oil pastels instead of oil paint because they've had to take, in essence, their studio to probably their bedrooms or, home, their basements or what have you, and we didn't want to have to be dealing with solvents.
Yeah.
Like in non-ventilated spaces, or at least non-dedicated spaces as far as making rooms concerned.
Sure. Surprise display of affection there? Is that what that was?
Yeah, Diana was doing that for the camera.
I see. Didn't have anything to do with you.
Right. Domestic bliss.
Right. I wouldn't know.
But the principle, like with what you're doing, Paul.
Yeah.
For people out there watching, that aren't part of my intermediate painting class, the whole point of this is I'm going to have you explain how you got into this, this idea of doing online portraiture. But the first project that we're doing for the intermediate painting class deals with portraiture. So
Okay.
That was why I wanted to make this connection with you.
Yeah, great.
See how you pull this off.
Okay.
This kind of virtual, live portrait painting.
Yeah.
What an interesting, it's like here you are painting me, and we're able to socialize.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
It's especially given these days, when everybody's locked into their houses or their apartments. This could be an interesting way to go about doing portraiture, and be able to have a conversation with your friends, family.
Yeah. That's when I started, I had done this project several years ago when I was living out in the country. I I couldn't really get models to come out to sit for me anymore. Also, a lot of my friends kind of moved away and things like that. And, the artist life is really pretty lonely a lot of times, I found. After being in my studio for years and years, I really started to feel it growing on me. So I started to do these Skype paintings back then. And it was a bit difficult because I spent an awful lot of time trying to find people online who would sit for me. And, that's one thing at this particular moment is people who are sitting at home and really kind of looking for something to entertain themselves, not only entertain themselves, but, make a connection with somebody else somewhere. So I found once I started it again, it really kind of took off. And it was really kind of, I'll admit it was a bit of desperation because I was down to about, what was it? I think it was 45 euros when Italy went into lockdown. And I had a couple of side jobs, and those were suddenly gone. And I didn't have any commissions on the horizon. And, I was talking with my sister, and she said, why don't you do the Skypes again? And, I thought, well, now, when I was doing them before, it was hard enough, but now there's like the algorithm, which is limiting your posts. And I thought, it's never going to fly. But I tried it once, and like from that one time, it just like sort of exploded on me. And it really has saved my bacon for the moment, at least.
At some point, when you turn the camera around and show all of it, you have a number of those portraits behind you.
Yeah, all right.
Well, I don't know if they can see that or not.
No, I don't think so.
Camera, right?
Yeah, right now all they see is you on the video and me painting you.
Okay. You want to listen? Here's an opportunity to, to push the business too.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. I'll get to there.
Okay.
That. All right, so I've blocked in a lot of the big spaces around here. Now I'm going to get started into the face. And again, I'm keeping these colors really, really thin because I want to be able to move them, change them, paint over them. A different teacher, not Dennis, he used to say, work as light as you can for as long as you can. This was mostly related to drawing because when you're drawing, once you start making those really heavy marks that you can't erase, the process becomes really quite frustrating. But if you learn how to hold your pencil in a way that it really becomes almost impossible to make a heavy mark, then you can just with a very light touch of an eraser, move an eye or push things around.
Would you say that about the paint as well? It's like work with
Yes.
thinner paint to begin, and then
Yeah.
if you're going to work, like the surface or the texture, that would come later or a little bit later.
Yeah, particularly if you're working on a painting that you want to have done really quickly from the drawing stage to the painting stage. If you've done your work and you've drawn everything out really well beforehand and you're doing a much less speedy approach to painting, then, I couldn't see, you can even go on really heavy, but once you go heavy, you're committed to that mark that you made. I mean, there's always a way to get it off, but that usually takes a bit more experience and also gumption to really say to yourself, no, this one isn't good enough. I've got to take it down, tear it apart, redo it.
What's the difference, like working from a live model, like being in front of live human being as opposed to working off of the computer screen?
Well, I mean, the main difference is that the computer screen is already making a two-dimensional translation for me. Whereas when I'm working from life, I've got the bifocal vision happening. So it's, there's the plus and the minus to it, because I don't have that problem of the double vision getting in my way and causing some confusion. But then on the other hand, that is part of the information that we read the world with. So, it might be a little more difficult to really read and understand the mass. One thing I say about computers is it's kind of like, it's like I'm taking the worst of both worlds here. Because, with a photograph, you've got it translated into 2D and it's not going to change on you. Whereas with video, they move. So as far as, the technical aspects goes, there are, maybe some drawbacks to it. But, I also kind of find that's part of the excitement of it, really.
I was going to ask you, a question I'm sure I would get is why not just do a screen grab? Isolate an image and paint from that as opposed to what we're doing right now.
Well, why not do a screen grab is because if I do a screen grab, I'm no longer talking to you and actually having a real reaction with you. And it becomes just really purely, not purely, but a lot of the time that you spend in front of the painting becomes sort of purely that kind of technical exercise for me. And I get kind of bored. So, call has just failed.
Oops.
Here we go again. On our own. Going down the only road I never know. Calling Dennis back now.
Would you agree we might use the chance to show some of the portraits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unreachable, redial. This is really the most problematic sitting that we've done. It's amazing. All the others have gone really smoothly. No technical problems at all. Now, for those of you at home, did you see what I just did? I took my brush here and I got just a little bit of solvent on it. Not enough for a drop to go running down. But I just came in here at an angle and I can use my brush as an eraser. Dennis is dead. See, now in that situation, Dennis was just asking me for a screen grab, and actually a lot of times I have the forethought to do the screen grab ahead of time, but unfortunately I have my computer turned around backwards, so it's not easy for me to reach him. Come on, Dennis. I know you're there. Okay, I at least remember what I was seeing over here. There's a column with some bricks. So just because I can't get Dennis online doesn't mean I'm going to stop. What is up with Dennis? Alright, so what we're going to to do is we're going to take your money and invest it in some mutual bonds and then triplicate it in this, and it's gone.
What?
It's gone.
What do you mean it's gone?
It's gone.
But I have $100.
Not anymore.
What?
Dennis. All right, so I believe we would say take two.
Man.
2002 more likely.
So let's see. I was explaining what the problems with working online.
Yeah, well, it's the idea. I think I asked you why not just do a screen grab.
Right. Yeah.
Right. What are the drawbacks or the benefits of working with a live feed like this? Obviously, we see what the drawbacks are.
Yeah. It can drop out on you. That's an obvious drawback. But the benefit, the biggest benefit for me is that I'm talking and looking at a living, breathing person, even if it's not actually Dennis. It's virtual Dennis. Dennis can respond, and whereas you might see it a drawback that they move, you can also see it's like no, that's a advantage as well, because things can happen that you're not expecting, and that might come into play in the work. And maybe it's just I don't want to make life so easy on myself. That's probably a theme for me. And you're done. Just kidding.
How much for the benefit of the students, because there are a number of students watching. You want to talk a little bit about your history with Bowling Green?
My history with Bowling Green. Yeah. I was both an undergraduate student and a grad student at Bowling Green. Let's see, what shall I say about Bowling Green? Yeah, I studied with Dennis and learned a hell of a lot about color and mixing color.
Who else did you work with?
I worked with. I had a class with Mazer.
Remember Bob? Yeah. Anybody who's there now? Like, what about?
I don't.
Well, Janet was there when you were there, right?
Janet, yeah. I took a printmaking class with Janet, and sorry.
Lynn Whitney?
No, I never had a class with Lynn. I had a grad student for photography class. I don't know who else is there. I think
Sean Moore?
I never had a class with Sean. No.
I'm trying to think of the people that. What year did you graduate?
I graduated in undergrad in '93 and grad school '96.
Well, Lou was there. Lou was the director, wasn't he?
Yeah, sure. Is he still around?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, Lou.
Well, he's not teaching. He's still around. He's emeritus now. He's working in the glass area.
Okay. Yeah, and I did a lot of glass with Bud Hurlstone. Yeah.
Bud, I don't think.
No, nobody there would remember Bud.
Faculty and staff that have been around a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also you were involved with Saatchi.
Right. Yeah, that was.
That's why you're in Florence, basically.
Exactly. So what happened was when I had finished my undergrad, I had really basically Tom Hilty sort of set this up with Saatchi because Bowling Green was just starting its relationship with Saatchi at the time, and he got me a full scholarship to come over to Florence. And that's what got me started here. So, this is...
Were you a grad student then, or were you an undergrad?
I was...
A full scholarship.
Yeah, that was undergrad. So I went over there as a post-bac student. Mm-hmm. And then the second semester, I switched over to be a MFA student, which was sort of why I ended up going back to Bowling Green for the MFA.
Yeah, back then it was 1 year at Saatchi and then 1 year at
Right, right, yeah. Exactly. And yeah, Bowling Green was great.
Back to Bowling Green, but then you turned right around and went back to Florence again. Right?
Not right away, but fairly quickly, yeah. I mean, at the time it was sort of, like the easiest thing to do was to go back to Saatchi as a TA. And I didn't, expect to live all my life in Italy. It was really, I know there's a lot of people that have that under the Tuscan sun kind of dream, but it was never really my dream. It just happened to be, what I fell into. And it's a nice place to live.
How many years have you been an expat now?
It's been permanently since '96.
A long time.
Yeah, so it's definitely a long time. Expand those glasses a little bit more, round them around.
Have I gotten to the right, the right pose again? Am I close enough?
Close enough. That's what I always say now when models ask me almost all the time. It's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
You learn that, no matter what you do, that one really sweet position that you had just 10 minutes before, no matter how many times I ask them to move that arm, it just never really falls that same way for whatever inexplicable reason that might be.
Oh, I forgot to ask if you could take 20 years off while you're doing it.
Ha ha ha. I'm a realist, Dennis. Let's see, 20 years, I'm going to have to make you blonde.
Right.
Just a little bit more up top, but not much.
I think I have to, when you were committed to that new hairstyle, that's something I have to start considering that.
No, I don't. I think you don't need to start considering it. You look good, man. I mean, you still got those fluffs of hair up top there in that shape. You don't have the full U in the back.
Barely. You do commission portraiture, not with what you're doing here, but like a more formal kind of commission portraiture.
I do, sure. I haven't. I've never really sort of made that my marketing thrust,
Mm-hmm.
but I've certainly done a fair amount of commissions over the years.
With your studio work, how do let's say how do you promote your studio work, or do you have relationships with the galleries out there?
Sort of, but not so much.
You're still doing other work.
Yeah, I have some connections. Recently, I talked with the gallerist here in Florence, a new venue, and we were talking about doing a show. But of course, we've got the Corona thing now, so everything's kind of on hold. And I have a gallery that I've sold some work with in Germany, which is called Up Art, and it's a very nice gallery in a pretty small town, a fairly affluent town, but they're pretty good. But mostly I've been doing the marketing and all of that through collectors that I've known for a while on Facebook. And
So you end up doing commissions,
Sorry?
or do you do commissions then, or are people just buying out of your studio?
Mostly buying out of my studio, but I have one collector who every time I write to him, he'll write something like, "Who's the best?" and I'll have to write back, "You're the best." And and it's true, I mean, he buys regularly quite a lot of works, and the last commission, which is a big painting here, maybe I can show it to you. He basically gave me a blank slate for a commission. He just said, yeah. I told him, I had a bit of an idea of what I want to do, a big self-portrait. Actually, the original idea was, I don't know if you remember that double self-portrait I did when I was an undergrad. It was actually, the first big multiple figure work that I did. And it was me as the artist, and as the idea was, as an artist, you kind of have to be this sort of totally honest with yourself entity, but then you also have to be the sort of performer and showman, which the two are really quite opposite each other, and sort of a difficult act to pull off. And that was sort of what this painting was about. So I had, this was back when I thought very literally about themes and things. And I had myself dressed up as a ringmaster from a circus.
Oh, that was fun.
And
was that your grad? No, it was your undergrad show.
Yeah, that was my undergrad show.
Right.
And then
Do you have your paintings posted on your website?
That one's there, yeah. Yeah, actually, the one that's there in Bowling Green, I don't even know if I have any photos of it anymore. So, actually, is Jackie still around? Is she, yeah, she's still in the business there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would encourage people to, after this, anybody that's still hanging in there with us, to go to the website to, look at the, kind of the arc of your career, like where you started, because you have some of the graduate work.
Yeah, there's some of them there.
Along the way, yeah.
And the transition to digital, really made a lot of works disappear, because I'm sure, someplace in my parents' attic, I probably have slides of those, but most of them have been kind of lost.
Yeah, I have a whole sleeves of slides, past work that I keep saying I'm going to get these all digitized.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's another thing with the digital age is we take so many photos that we don't really care that. I mean, I'm sure almost everybody has had a computer or a laptop that died that had a whole slew of their photos on them. Not just artists, but anybody. And that sort of process. It's like, okay, I'm going to put it on the shelf for right now, and then one day I'm going to take those off. And there's one out at Elisabetta's house that's been there up on a shelf for probably at least 15 years. No one's going to. I don't even know if you can even access that thing anymore. What's that? Sounds like a dog.
Yeah, that was Stassi making her entrance.
Hi, Stassi.
See what you're doing, Paul. What do you want going on now? What stage are you in?
What stage am I at? I'm still kind of putzing around here and there, to put it lightly. I'm kind of at that stage when I get to about the middle of a painting and I kind of say, oh man, this is not looking like him at all. This is really embarrassing. It's a lot of pressure doing this, you know that? But yeah, mostly when I'm doing these, I don't have too much of a set, sort of technical procedure. It's, I'm jumping around constantly, just sort of looking for what needs the most attention.
Can we talk about your palette at all? Is there a set palette that you work with? Just something about what you're seeing off of the computer screen that kind of dictates the colors that you end up choosing.
Well, I have noticed that I'm using a lot more of like alizarin mixed with ultramarine or Prussian blue, because things tend to push a lot more blue and violet on the computer screen. But then also sometimes, it's kind of rare. But I have this thing come up where some people's lighting situation, cadmium yellow light becomes fundamental. Not always, but in a few rare situations, that's like seems like the only color that I'm going to get that sort of particular group of tones that I'm seeing. I'm working on your cheekbone here. Okay, I've got to take a little bit of red that's a little bit brighter, a little bit more intense, and pushing not only the dark of your cheek here, but also the intensity, bringing it up a little bit more. And these are all very, very kind of light taps at this stage, for the most part. And cool that down a bit.
I'm trying to catch a glimpse in the reflection off of your glasses of what I'm seeing at my end to see how things are going.
Well, yeah, you should have gotten another computer nearby, and you could watch it.
Oh, right.
Live.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, I could have done that.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Probably would have
when
gotten
we were
that.
having those technical difficulties, we were having a little bit of a conversation about what's going on, in your world out there in Italy, because Italy's been hit
Hard.
one
Yeah.
of the hardest hit,
Yeah.
as far as this coronavirus is concerned. What are things like today?
Okay, well, I can say in Florence, we really haven't been, we're not taking the brunt of it. It's really, up north has really been really tragic. We get these photographs of, army trucks which are taking caskets away because they don't have any place for cremation and burial. So they're taking them to another region to take care of the bodies. I don't know, maybe I don't think it was fake news, but I guess, I should be careful about that. But it doesn't seem far away from the reality that has been presented. In Florence, we're locked down. We're all being careful. We got huge lines at the supermarket, but the supermarkets are very well stocked. So that's not a problem at all.
There's not like the hoarding that seems to be going on with certain things here.
I didn't see it, no. And I haven't really heard of that being really an issue here, other than the masks. The masks are hard to find. Yeah.
Was there a reason? Was there any reason given why? Was it Milan? Was it why it hit so hard in northern Italy and it's not
Right.
not showing up as much in the south? Or?
Well, I had just heard something. There's two villages, well, not villages, cities right now which are really being hit really, really hard. Actually, okay, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, they're being hit extremely hard, and I had read something that somebody had written on Facebook, so, take this for what it is. But, he was sort of talking about how, when was it? At right about the same time, if you count back with the incubation period, that the people would have been infected, there were like two major sporting events which everybody had flocked to. And at least this person's theory was that's probably how the contagion got so diffuse in their area. But why Milan particularly, I'm not really sure. I would have thought that Florence would have been hit because we've got lots and lots of Chinese tourists coming through here, lots of tourists in general, and I would have thought that Florence would have been a lot harder hit than it has been so far. And there's things like I went out one day to go to the supermarket, and there's an ambulance down the street, and you kind of look at the ambulance, and it's really weird when you realize you're saying, God, hope it's just a heart attack,
Right. Right.
But that's the other thing. It's like the hospitals are absolutely full, and even for people who have other things other than the coronavirus, that's they really can't get any sort of help because everything's going towards taking care of those people in intensive care.
How long have you guys been in lockdown?
How long is it now? It's got to be more than 2 weeks now, I believe.
Is there an end in sight? Is there a date that they're giving you, or it's just a matter of?
Well, when they had started lockdown, they had said we're on lockdown until April 3rd, I think it was. But automatically, everybody sort of did the math, and we figured out that April 3rd is like 3 days before the Easter break, so it's doubtful that they're going to say, hey, let's, go back to school for these 3 days and then have Easter break. So everybody was already, pretty sure that the original lockdown date was going to be extended, and the government has said that they will be extending it, although they haven't, made clear how long. And, I think basically everybody's kind of waiting right now because the Chinese said that they're going to, I think fairly soon, unlock the how do you pronounce it? The place where it hit? Wuhan, yeah. So, I'm guessing, and again, whatever this is worth, because I'm just some guy sitting in his house most of the day painting paintings. I'm guessing that they're kind of waiting to see what happens there. Does the outbreak start up again as soon as people are no longer shut down, or have they really got it under control? Well, I think the other thing is, with time, that also gives them time to make more masks and more tests, and so that they actually can check everybody that it seems like they've been infected. And of course, that's been, another big problem is, they don't have tests, they don't have the masks to protect themselves. So, this is again just me because I'm not Chinese either.
Well, it's the same here.
Yeah.
I think it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
We see that the Sachi, for example, is going to be they've already canceled their first spring section.
Sure.
The one May through the end of June session.
Yeah.
They're canceled already. I assume most programs in Florence have canceled at least.
Oh, I'm totally sure of that. I have no doubt whatsoever.
The interesting thing to do with tourism is like
there is none. None.
No, even when the lockdown is over and we roll around to summer, if they're going to maybe, what would you say, discourage tourists from even coming?
Well, I'm not even sure they'd have to discourage tourists from coming. I don't think that's even a problem, really.
Right.
From what I know, because that was one of my other jobs, I was a tour guide, and so they've said that most people, all the way, even people who had booked like in August, have canceled. So, and this was really at the start of this thing. This isn't recent news. So, it's. I don't think tourism is going to be picking up this year. One thing that they did say is they're trying now to like sell things for like afterwards, or doing some kind of virtual tour or something like this, just to somehow help some of the people who are involved in that industry.
I was on my way to Paris right before it broke. Here it was Trump canceled international flights. You could only come back if you were a citizen. He did that on Friday. I was heading out to. I was virtually on my way to Chicago with my bags packed, and I was going to be. It was Thursday night. That's what it was, and he had announced that Wednesday night that he was going to cancel flights on Friday. And so I was right on the cusp of jumping on a plane and going out to Paris before all hell broke loose. So I guess that was pretty lucky that I didn't take that chance.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I've been moving your mustache around a bit.
Should be easy enough. Just make me look scruffy.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And on the computer screen, Dennis's beard has quite a lot of blue and blue-green in it. So I'm sort of dabbling little bits of blue and blue-green in here.
What do you use for your blue-green? Is it Viridian or Phthalo or?
I've got a turquoise blue out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I might add like a flick of ultramarine or some other blue into it.
What paints do you use?
Well, I've got quite a few Rembrandt. And I've got really a mix of a lot of different things. I don't have just one brand. I have some Michael Hardings left from the BP Portrait Award, and
So talk about once you finish answering that. I'd like you to talk about that as well. That's pretty interesting.
Okay. So my paints, let's see. Here's a Winsor & Newton alizarin crimson, just because all the other brands aren't dark enough. Rembrandts. The Michael Hardings, and that's pretty much also a couple of local brands that the local art shop produces. So the BP thing, what would you like to know? I won an award at the National Portrait Gallery, and this was the travel award for the BP Portrait competition. The call just failed again. Oh, this is the worst ever, man. I can't believe it. Now, is redial going to work? Why is there an emoticon on my screen?
Well, because people are sending them.
Oh, hi Chad Green. How you doing?
So guess what? My computer went out again.
Oh, that was you. Okay, I'm happy to know it was you, because
So I'm trying to bring you can work for a little while, can't you? Until I figure this out. I don't know. I've got a MacBook Pro. It's basic. It's less than a year old, and it doesn't seem to be able to handle this kind of video conferencing.
Huh. I couldn't tell you because I'm useless. But while you're doing that, Chad Green says hello.
I've seen Chad at BG a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's been here, with the digital arts program has brought him in.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Dennis.
I don't know. I don't know why the computer just all of a sudden just shuts down, and then I have to try to get it back on. Get it back up. Reboot it, and all the passwords, everything starts jumping around on the screen. Jeez Louise. Seems like whatever can go wrong today, Paul, is...
Yeah. Murphy's Law here. Somehow transmitted between Bowling Green, Ohio, and Florence, Italy.
You've got to be coming up to the end here, don't you?
I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. It's been a rough one. I'll be honest with you.
I've never sat for a portrait. Only for myself. I've done some self-portraits.
Right. Well, you see, here now we come to the part near the end where what we have to do is deflect the blame of the portrait onto the model.
There we go. That's right. Look like a troll.
Well, in
the BP award.
The BP award, yeah. So it's this really great thing. I was in the BP portrait competition in London, and when you have been accepted into the show, except for like the big prize winners, you are invited to write a proposal for a travel project. And I wrote a proposal to go paint a massive portrait on a Greek nudist beach. And they actually went for it. I mean, even more than went for it. I was like, when you get down to the short list, you have to go in for an interview, and I was practicing. I had things to say. And I came in, and, I was all ready to say something, and one of the women opened her mouth and said, well, first of all, we'd like to say that we think this is a really fun proposal. And then they just sort of brainstormed between them problems that I might have while I'm trying to do this. And I had to really force, to like get, even like one of my prepared kind of pitches out to them. And, even then I realized, that it seemed like it was totally unnecessary. And maybe I shouldn't talk about this, but, that was also the big oil spill year. So, maybe they were looking for something that seemed kind of light and not, because a lot of people are saying, they want to go to Rwanda and paint people who'd had their arms chopped off in the war and things like this.
I should laugh.
So, that might have had something to do with it. I don't really know. Anyway, they gave me a bunch of money to go over to this beach in Greece and paint for a month on this beach, and it was great. Never ever going to have a studio as nice as that again, because I would show up in the morning and people would say, hey, how's it going, Picasso? I was like, oh, good. If I wanted to see it from a long ways away, I just swam out to 50 yards and turned around, took a look. It was really an amazing experience.
And there's a video that
you
created of that whole experience.
Yeah. You can choose to watch the 1-minute version, the 15-minute version, or the hour and 10-minute version.
Who produced that?
I did.
It's awfully well done.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, as well done as you can when you're shooting on a Nikon Coolpix camera, one of those little boxy kind of, I don't even know if they probably exist anymore. I don't know, but it was a beautiful little camera. I just happened to get this camera, and it had a time lapse function on it, and I just went crazy with it. So now I'm trying to push your beard a little bit darker because it's really not in the light at all. So even though your beard is fairly white, in this light it is anything but white. And since we're doing this for the students, that's one thing I'd say is, get rid of these words to describe colors like just as simple as white, because anything that's white, as soon as you put it into some sort of light source, it either becomes a yellow white or a red white or a bluish white. Finding that absolute true white is a pretty rare experience. I don't know if I've ever found it. Yeah, I think so far you've got the record probably for the longest one that I've done online. At least this time around.
If you were to post this video, I would assume you'd cut out all of the crazy stuff that's happened.
I have no idea how we're going to deal with this one. Because I am still painting even when you cut out.
Okay. I guess from my position here, I imagine everything just comes to a halt until I get back up online. So I'm not as important as I think I am.
Well, you are. You're so important that people are scrambling to paint your portrait even when you're not there. Oh, you're too thin, Dennis. Why are you so thin here? Alright, we're going to push this out over here more.
I'm trying to hold tight here for you, Paul.
I know. You're doing great, Dennis. Cut this down yet again. The other thing with these is you're really like drawing until the very last minute that you're doing it. It's never like
Always drawing, always revising. Right?
always drawing, always revising. It's you never get to that one spot where, oh yeah, it's perfect, now I just fill the color in, because as soon as you start just filling the color in, then you pretty much just lose that whatever bit of a likeness that you had to start out with most of the time. You know, you always got to be vigilant to check your drawing. It's a little better, yeah. Dead air time. Somebody needs to sing.
Oh, my exes live in Texas.
Hey, that's copyrighted, man.
Oh man, it was short enough, I hope.
Okay.
What's not copyrighted?
You could sing Ode to Joy in German.
If I only knew it.
Freude, schöne Gunterfunken tauscht aus Elysium. Haha. It's really subtle colors on your forehead. Very blue. Pull that out a little bit. Call failure. About every half an hour. I think we're probably going to have to call this to a close since we're having so many technical problems here.
Wow, did it fail again?
Yeah.
No, wrong person. I called the wrong person.
All right, why don't we see if we can get him just to say goodbye, and we'll wrap it up, I think.
Computer correct again.
Yeah, I know.
Did you have a screen grab? Don't you like to be able to finish it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm close to that point where it could kind of go. You know, that's always the question with these: is when is that? When's that calling point? Dennis is looking a bit gruff.
Let's see if I can bring it up one more time on the computer. Such a drag. Okay, hang up on this one, Paul. I'm going to try one more time.
All right. Put a lovely woman here. There we go.
Well, I think we were really that last run, so I think we're going to be even enough time this go around, Paul. So
Yeah, I'd say.
you can to clean me up.
I'm doing it.
Okay. What I've discovered is I can't use my computer to video conference or anything. That's for sure.
Why is that? Ah, because of this. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I could help you out with that.
Thanks.
Yeah, this has been the video conference to end all video conferences today,
Yeah, for
hasn't it?
sure.
To be honest, I'm so scared to do this once again that, you know, I think I'm gonna quit my job, stop working with technology, go live on a farm, a simple life.
Oh, be quiet. You're going to do no such thing. I have a contract! I have no contract.
Wait, dude, I'm supposed to be the producer, I'm the one who yells.
Whoever made you producer? Let's start there.
Well, yeah, okay.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got a screenshot, so I'll show you what it's looking like right now, and I think we'll end this episode. Good riddance.
Yeah, what a drag. Why do I hate technology? This is like the perfect example.
Yeah. All right. So here's what you look like so far. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's slightly you, at least. Yeah. Just pretend it's like, oh my god, that looks exactly like me.
I like the pastel off of my shoulder. That's fun.
Yeah, the pastel's
Show
fun.
me your wall of paintings.
Okay. All right. So, wait. First, we have to. This is the magic moment at the end of the show where we assign you a number. You are number 39, Dennis.
Okay.
You're number 39.
Talk about your business real quick.
Yeah. Well,
How's business?
I am doing these live on Messenger or Skype or a couple other different video calling services. Mostly I prefer Messenger. And if you go to my Facebook page, or even better, my website, www.paulbeal.com, there's on the first page there's starts all the information for how you can sign up. I have a calendar that you can book a time for. And most people have been paying over PayPal, particularly people who aren't in Italy. A lot of people in Italy have been paying with bank transfers. But with PayPal, you lose a lot less money than with the regular bank transfer. So
I'll jump in and say that this isn't very expensive, Paul. This is
no.
$100 to do this. So
Yeah. It's less than $100, and it's fun. It gives you something to do while you're sitting at home. You know, I've already watched everything that I want to watch on Netflix. So maybe Netflix is scrambling right now to put out new content, but you know, I'm sure there's other people that are going to be in the same boat pretty quickly. So if you want to do something a little bit unusual and novel with your time, then you know, think about having a portrait made, and a portrait's gonna stay around for a long time. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Did you show the wall of portraits?
Yeah, he panned on the wall.
Which
Sure.
they have?
He's doing it again. Yeah, and we're gonna have to put Dennis up now. Dennis goes up to the wall. And number 39.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you do with all of this, the video that we captured today.
Sure you will.
Make something interesting out of it.
Well, we're gonna cut it up into tiny pieces and do something. And he's frozen now. He's gone. He's gone. Okay. Good night, Dennis. Goodbye night to everybody else. Please stop by and watch another episode. Hopefully, we will have far fewer technical issues than what we had today. Take care. Good night. Stay safe. Stay home. Ciao.